What's up, Queens? This is your host, Savannah, and before we begin the show this week, I have a special announcement. I am pleased to announce that I'll be taking part in an Ask Me Anything during the first week of August, sponsored by FDS, for our Patreon subscribers at the Queen Shit and the Level Up tiers. You can ask me about how I like my tea, British weather, it's not great, British gentlemen, or anything else. No topic will be off limits. To take part in the AMA, please sign up to our website at www.thefemaledatingstrategy.com and then send us a message on our Patreon, www.patreon.com/The Female Dating Strategy, to receive your special Patreon badge for the website. I'm really looking forward to reading and answering your questions, and I cannot wait to hear from you all. On to the show.
Welcome to the Female Dating Strategy Podcast, the meanest only female podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Ro.
And this is Savannah.
And this is Lilith.
And today we have a very special guest, the Honorable Judge Lynn Toler. You may know her from Divorce Court, as well as the current host of Hip Hop Marriage Bootcamp. She is also the author of My Mother's Rules, a practical guide to becoming an emotional genius. Judge Lynn Toler.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be here.
Glad to have you here.
It's good to be here. It really is.
So as we were discussing before we started hitting record, you have had a cross-continental influence, because Savannah was the person who was like, "Hey, we got to get Lynn Toler on the show," because she absolutely loves your show and has learned so much about relationships from it that we also talk about here on the podcast.
Yeah, 100%, because I found Female Dating Strategy in about 2019, and I've been watching Divorce Court since about 2015. It was my older sister who introduced me to Divorce Court, and it's very similar to FDS in that it's very straight talking, isn't it? That's what I really loved about the show. And I felt like the women who appeared on that show, they went away empowered, even though the answer to their relationship problem may not have been, what they wanted to hear, such as you need to leave this dude. But, it was your entire approach to helping them to understand, to put themselves first and to not basically accept any crap just to keep a man. And that's what really, really resonated with me.
Right. Yeah, I did talk to a lot of young women on the show, and actually older women as well. And I think women often find that their sense of self-worth is so intricately intertwined with their status as far as being married or not married. And sociologically, of course, that's what we're going to do, because for millennia, it was like you were defined by what male you were attached to. And now that we are in this new age where male attachment is not necessary to function in society, nonetheless, we still like having them. We enjoy them. You know what I mean? We want to touch one and bring him home. Or bring him home and touch him. I think that's a better order for things. So we have to just figure out how to navigate this new normal and love our relationships, enjoy our relationships, pursue our relationships, but don't be defined and destroyed by them.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, so just feeding off from that, Judge Lynn, in your time on Divorce Court and on the bench, what would you say are the biggest mistakes that women make when it comes to dating and to being in a relationship with a man?
Too much too soon. That's number one. I mean, dudes, I said this on a show once, dudes do a wonderful thing. They go out on a date and they enjoy the date. We in the middle of the date thinking, well, this is looking good. That box is checked off. No, I don't like that. You know what I mean? Is he the one? Blah, 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 blah. We tend to do that a lot. And I would like you to enjoy the date just for that.
We're big on that with female dating strategy, and we actually advocate for women to get in a habit of dating, if you can, multiple guys, so that you can stay in the moment when you're on a date, rather than always every new man that you see projecting the future onto him.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So it leans itself sometimes to women over committing themselves to men who haven't committed themselves to the woman if they don't kind of look at their dating pool in a broad way.
Right, absolutely. And we need to dabble more. And I mean, you can dabble with your clothes on. As you know, you don't have to do a whole lot of, you just,
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Thank you.
You can wait before sex. Come on.
I mean, and it's like, you're like, I don't need that. I don't need you, but I'm checking you out. I'm checking you out. What's happening over here? You know, always be honest, always be true. Hey, I'm just trying to find what I like here. And men will sit there and you become hard to attain. And that makes them competition for one another, as opposed to you're seeking to cuff one up and lock him down.
Yeah, he should be the one trying to cuff you, not you trying to cuff him.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's how we do here.
Absolutely. And it's when you get married, it's such a boon for the guy. Most divorces are started by women, statistically. The vast majority, 70 to 80%, depends on the time, depends on where, are started by women. And typically, women are far less likely to remarry because they don't want to, because we tend to give so much in the marriage relationship. I'm responsible for all of the health care. I worry about his food. I look at him. What is he doing? Da-da-da-da-da. Men live longer when they're with us. We do so much in knitting together that relationship that you ought to feel like, I'm going to give you so much if you get me. You got to work to put me in that position.
Absolute facts.
Yeah, facts.
Preaching to the choir, man.
There's so many tangible and intangible benefits to having a woman in your life if you're a man.
Oh my goodness.
Like, best case scenario, he'll have a medium or neutral effect on your life, but in more cases than not, he'll have an actively harmful effect on your life. So
I always say I need a wife. I got a husband. I need a wife. I need somebody to worry about it and wonder about eventualities. Well, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you have it? Blah, 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 blah. We do all of that. And it's funny because when I started traveling for divorce court, because I was living in Ohio and we've taped out in LA, my husband had a whole new, because I'd be gone for 2 weeks and he'd come back. He was shell-shocked. He had no idea what was going on while I was there. Just none. So we do a lot at the crib, and you got to remember that. And so it's funny that we're the ones always wanting to lock down a committed relationship, but they benefit far more from that committed relationship than we do, typically. Not always, there are exceptions, but typically.
yeah, that's what we want to turn on its head, because it makes no sense for men, if they benefit more from relationships, it makes no sense for women to be the ones who are constantly trying to lock it down.
Absolutely.
And we were talking about that with the pandemic, about how much more labor women are putting in right now, because they're the ones a lot of times that are taking less hours at work so they can take care of family, not just their children, but like their larger extended family, which may be sick. A lot of that kind of work and emotional labor and work on developing the family falls on women. And it's been really, really, really clear this past year and a half just how much that's true.
Absolutely true. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine not too long ago, and her mother was older, and she left town and left her brother in charge. And I said, and he said, well, he's a dude. So he did about a third of what he was supposed to do because he didn't even think that way. You know what I mean? We think in layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. And this isn't a negative thing on them. It's just how they do business. They do this one thing along the line while they're like a laser and we're like photon bursts. We take care of a whole lot of stuff all at once. And you don't really realize how much we do because we do so much of it so quietly that you don't see it.
Yeah, it's so bizarre to me how men simultaneously undervalue the work that women do, but are also so dependent on it.
So dependent on it. Just so dependent on it. It's amazing.
When it's gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
they realize it when it's gone. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, my sister's a doctor and she's a neurologist, and when she has a guy and he's got a wife, she won't let them come to an office, a visit without the wife, because the wife does all the talking. The guy will always say, she'll ask them how they feel, and they'll say, fine. And a lot of neurological changes can be small aphasias and different things that are signs that men will either ignore or simply don't want to say, I'm weak or this, that, or the other thing. So she always says, listen, if you got a wife, bring her, because she's going to give me better information than you are.
Oh my gosh.
No, that's so true. I had a great uncle who died of bladder cancer because he didn't tell anyone that he was peeing blood for like 2 years. And it was only when his wife found out that she dragged him to the doctor's office. But by then it was too late. It was like stage 4. Yeah, if he'd told her like 2 years earlier, it could have saved his life.
And it was interesting when my husband had gallbladder surgery once, and I was sitting in the waiting room, and everybody who came in, whether it was a CEO or a construction worker, if it was a dude coming for a procedure, the woman came up to the front desk and did the business, and they stood back. They stood back, and it was because, and that's what I did. When I came in, I said, he's here for this, blah, 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 blah. And,
No wonder they don't live as long as we do. God.
Oh, my. So this kind of lends to our next question, because so often these kinds of tasks are taken care of by women, why it's important for a lot of women to ask for marriage and get marriage, because having this ability is a lot of times precluded on you actually being this person's wife and actually having a legal piece of paper. Whereas, if you're sick or he's sick and you don't have marriage, it's a little bit trickier. What kinds of things in your lifetime and in your career that you've observed maybe disadvantage women by not getting married, or what would you say are the biggest advantages of marriage? And are you pro-marriage? Do you believe in marriage? I guess I should have asked.
Yeah. Why is it bad to be a forever girlfriend, or is it bad to be a forever girlfriend?
Not if you're cool with it. I got a girlfriend from high school, never got married, been with this guy longer than I've been with my dude, and she's fine. She doesn't have a problem with it. They live in New York. They're both, high powered, this, that, or the others. And she's cool with it. She doesn't want it. I like being married. First of all, I like the fact that, you go into the hospital and he's your boyfriend. Doctor don't know you from Adam. You're nobody. You're a legal stranger to him. He's comatose or something. His parents can decide what happens to him, and you're going to be the one taking care of him, but you don't have any legal rights because you're not married. If he dies suddenly, all that stuff he's got, you're not legally attached to him, economically attached to him, none of that. There are, my husband's an accountant. There are tax reasons why marriage is a good thing. There are, if you do have children, it is a good thing to have that. What a marriage often does, like for years 18, 19, and 20, I ain't like my husband at all. Do you hear me? I'd as soon shot him as said hello to him. But we had kids, and I'm like, look, they're teenagers. I can't raise them boys by myself, and we made it work. And I called my mother, and she told me how to change the situation. It took 17, 18 years to get me in this mess. It took me like 3 years to get out of it, but we figured it out. But marriage is like, look, I am committed to the proposition of staying with you. And that means we're both going to have to work. And when you have that kind of commitment, when you put it on paper, when the law knows it, when medicine knows it, it makes you feel better. And if it's such a not big a deal, as they say, well, what's the piece of paper? What value is it? If it makes me happy and feel secure, what's your problem?
Exactly. Yeah. The piece of paper thing makes me so mad. Yeah. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah. You want to go. Yeah. If you're looking to stay single so you can go without any technical problems, then I don't want to deal with you, because I don't want you up and rocking off, because it's easy for you to do. If that's the only reason you don't want to get married. But if you say there's no reason to get married other than the fact that it makes you safe, secure, happy, and sound, and you can't do that for me, thank you. Next.
I love that.
Yeah. Because it seems like people do everything that would be done in a marriage, such as they'll buy a house, they'll have kids together, they'll be together for 15 years, and then they'll say, I've been engaged for 8 years, and you're just like, this just seems so backwards.
Especially with millennials.
Yeah, that's what I talk about. I tell people, I call it an installation violation. And what it is you're installed in his life as the most convenient appliance he has. It's sexually gratifying. You make meals, you take care of him, all the health, the cleaning, the cooking, all of that stuff.
We call that a mommy McBang maid, which is not the
same thing.
Little vulgar, but
it's a great name though. Yeah, but that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. And that's a woman's fault. If you install yourself into his house and then wonder why he's not going to give you a ring, that's just silly.
Yeah, so many millennial, and I've even seen this in the mainstream media talking about this. So many millennial women now have committed to buying homes with guys.
It's like, why?
And sometimes these homes are just money sucks. Like they're not even feasible fixer-uppers that they're going to be able to flip in a short amount of time. And then they break up before they have a chance to even capitalize on the house that they had. And I'm like, what's the point of buying a house with a guy?
Yeah.
And you don't have some kind of stable long-term commitment. A mortgage is 40 years, right? 30, 40 years.
I worked in finance for a long time, and this was a tale as old as time, to the point where the mortgage advisors would tell me, like, on the down low, that don't buy a house with someone you're not married to. They couldn't say that to customers, but we'd get people who were 20, 21 buying a house with their boyfriend. And I just think in those years, because in the UK, it's very much like people look down on you if you don't own a house by 25. Like,
really?
You're basically vilified. Yeah, it's a massive, you need to get on the property ladder ASAP. People like look down on you if you rent. It's, very much a mortgage culture. And for many people, the only way they can afford a mortgage is if they buy a house with their partner.
Two folks. Yeah.
That's the only way they can get one. But the problem is they're pushing this on young people. When you're 21, 22, your life will change so much over the next 5 years. And we'd see it all the time where they'd buy the house, a year later, he wants to leave, and she will be thousands of pounds out of pocket because they're in negative equity. And it was really, really sad.
If there's one thing I would really want to tell young women, and the book I wrote, Dear Sonali, Letters to the Daughter I Never Had, I had 6 sons. So, and I never got a little girl.
It's a lot of sons.
Yeah, isn't it? And I married a guy with 4 sons. I had 2 more boys. He clearly can't do girls. I gave up. But the one thing that I would say to them is don't fall into the river of culture, because it's a rushing river that will have you all the way down and land you in an ocean you never intended to be on, just because everybody's doing it. And we share from the moment we get up in the morning to when we go at night, we share everything we do. And once we start doing that, everybody starts getting ideas about what we ought to do, as far as, this is what we do in the dating scene. This is what we do about a house. This is what we do about this. This is what we do about that. And the minute you start doing that, you end up doing stuff because it's culturally appropriate as opposed to personally acceptable. It's not the best thing for you. My sister never got married. She just didn't. And she's a doctor, and now, the guys can't keep up with her. She'll get a guy and she'll keep him for a while. And the minute he causes her trouble, she fires him and moves on.
Queen
energy.
Nice.
She's queen. We don't fault her at all.
No second chances.
That point is very interesting about the river of culture, or the wash. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember how you phrased it, but like how culture pushes women in a certain direction that a lot of times isn't beneficial to us. And if you don't stop and look around
and think, where am I? Why am I in the water? What am I doing in the water? Is everybody in the water doing what I want to do, or do I want to do something else? And can I swim upstream while everybody's going downstream? It's often a matter of just sitting back and acknowledging, this is what pushed me to do this, as opposed to, this isn't, I'm going to go along with it. You have to take a step back from what you're doing and decide who decided that you would do it. Was it you, or was it the people around?
So true. And that honestly is why I think female dating strategy has had the resonance that it has and picked up the audience that we did, is because a lot of us who were involved in the subreddit started to stop and take a look at our lives and realize, where are we getting all these cultural messages that are pushing us towards things that, when we start to take like an actual factual inventory of our lives, have not been beneficial to us, right?
Exactly.
We mostly focus on dating, but there's so many other things, around that. We already kind of touched on some of those themes, like buying property with men you're not married to, or
makes no
having
sense.
sex too soon,
Right.
committing too soon with guys. And another thing that we rail against is how what we would call feminist culture sometimes pushes women to be way more sexually promiscuous, or than a lot of women are comfortable with, especially at young ages. There's a big push right now for girls to get involved in OnlyFans, thinking it's going to be get rich quick, thinking it's going to be a money making avenue for them.
Can I say this very unpopular thing?
Go ahead. We love unpopular opinions.
You may. Go ahead.
The sexual revolution bus was nice to be on, but it backed over us in the end. When we detached that sex thing from marriage, it gave us a harder road to hoe. Now, no pun intended. I like that it happened, and I like that we have the right to be sexual beings, and I like that I didn't, that I allowed myself to be a sexual being before I got married. Having said that, I was very persnickety about it. You know what I'm saying? No hookups, no none of that. Sex is good. And you could get carried away with the joy of, this one, that one, the other one. But I think that if you're not careful, and it sounds like, women need to be modest and have a small body count. I hate that body count business. I think you should have as big a body count as you want, but you have to understand what you do and where you want to be. You can't have all of this and want all of that and expect it all to come at the same time.
We're big on curating sexual experiences that actually we think are going to be beneficial and enjoyable. The problem with the hookup and the fast sex is that a lot of guys just aren't good at it. I mean, there's no nice way to say it, right?
No.
So, the way that we recommend with our strategies is to take it slower, but it's not because we think like, women need to be modest.
Right.
We need to look virginal to men so you can get, a ring or anything. It's because
It's for our own benefit. We make them wait for our benefit.
create boundaries.
Exactly. And a weighted sex is better than the hookup sex. I'm sorry. You have to get that anticipation, that weight on both of you. It's more fun that way. It's exciting. It's maybe tonight, maybe not. You got to enjoy the whole ride, and the whole ride isn't just the rumpy bumpy when you're naked. The whole ride is getting to the rumpy bumpy.
Yeah. Yeah, I hate how it's considered abnormal nowadays to go on a date and not like hook up on the first or second or third date.
I think that's crazy.
I think it's I don't like how when I go on a date, at the end of the date, sometimes guys are okay about it, but a lot of the times they act like shocked. Like, why would you be on online dating and not hook up with me the first time we meet? Some of them want a hookup before even the date. Like they want.
Oh, it's just crazy. Just crazy.
They want sex without even taking you on a date. Like they just come over.
Yeah. Netflix and chill. I mean, it's just like, come over. Hey, can I grab a piece? Yeah, come on over. It's 2 a.m. Booty call. I don't believe in none of that.
Yeah, it's like they treat women like, pizzas for delivery or something like that. And so I don't like how I'm considered a prude or, backwards for not liking that or not wanting to do that.
And if you can get it that easily, you don't really feel like you got to deliver. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
If you could just have sex with you know what I mean? Now, if you've been waiting to have sex with me for 3 months, 4 months, you're going to come in there like, man, you know what I mean? Excited and anticipation, and you're going to make it, you really want me and desire me, and it's going to be an experience as opposed to, ain't nothing on TV. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, I mean, we call them low value men. So, you know, you don't want to be having sex with them anyways. But a lot of guys are low value and think that, oh, if she doesn't have sex with me on the first, second, or third date, then it means she's not interested in me. Like if she makes me wait for sex, she's not worth it. And they move on kind of thing. So a lot of women feel pressure to put out sooner than they would feel comfortable with just to maintain his interest. And that's a bad move. It's a bad calculation.
They're being hyped up by a lot of these male dating coaches who I won't give the dignity of naming.
Oh, don't get me started.
I won't. But that's, I mean, they're getting that kind of advice where if she doesn't have sex with you by the third date, she's not into you. You need to next her, right? And so then they miss out on actual connections because they're so concerned about the fast hookup and it's like they didn't teach them how to read attraction signals from women. Right. They just look at it like a formula, like this is the way it is, and if she doesn't put out right away, then she doesn't like you. You know?
Yeah, this is what we are in a society where we are such big fans of labels. You know, this is a woman. This is how women think. This is a man. This is what men think, and we're actually individuals. And it's really difficult, sometimes, for men to think of us as individuals. We are a pool of people. And especially when they're younger, they don't see us as much as individuals. As you age, the guys get more knowledgeable about that, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I find like young guys nowadays I don't know if it's always been like that because I am young, but younger guys just seem to have this really intense like hatred of women or very like bitter or feeling like women owe them stuff, or if women don't do this or this, or they just think all women are the same and are kind of bad. And
it's become so combative on both sides. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It's just very, you go on to Clubhouse and you go into these rooms and it's horrifying. The assumptions that both sides make about the other side, they demonize the other side. They take the 2 or 3 experiences that they've had with men or women and they universalize it and saying all women are this and all men are that. And we're coming to each other as, labels and assumptions and presumptions, and we're not seeing each other as people. And I remember one time there was a whole lot of people in a Clubhouse room talking about, what do you want in a woman and what do you want in a man? And they were talking that high value nonsense. I want a guy over 6 figures. How foolish is that? I want a guy over 6 figures. What you want is a guy that's got a future, a guy that gets you, a guy that knows where you're weak and won't walk on it. I mean, there are so many things that make a good husband that got nothing to do with the dollars or the looks or the sex.
Yeah, I think we have a different use of high value, low value. Like if a guy is rich and has a huge dick and is tall and handsome and everything, but if he's abusive, he's low value. So
Exactly.
The value is like the degree to which he positively or negatively impacts your life.
Impacts your life. That's right.
If he has a good influence on your life, improves your quality of life, even if he's not rich, that we would consider that person high value. A low value man, yeah.
I'm the primary breadwinner in my house, have been for years. But that man, when I'm depressed, he knows what to do. When I'm upset, I haven't filled my gas tank in years. He knows where when I say to him, I love you, don't you? And he goes, what's wrong? Because I say that when I'm nervous. And so it's his job to keep me upright and feel good. It's his job to ride my weird with me. And you got to get somebody that gets you and willing to ride your weird with me. He's super high value to me because he allows me to function freely and comfortably in a world that I find quite intimidating.
So could you give us a little bit more insight about long-term relationships? Because we mostly focus on the dating stage, but we have had some of our users request like, okay, once you're in a relationship, especially when it's spanned the decades that yours has spanned, what kinds of advice would you give to women who are in long-term relationships about how to maintain it? What kinds of things, what kind of challenges to look out for? And
get in the habit of going to marriage counseling early. A lot of people go to marriage counseling as the last ditch effort, and the ship is already sinking. They're on the Titanic, sucker's broken in half, everybody going down. We all know that.
It's a Hail Mary.
But my husband and I, and this was his idea, he says, let's go to a marriage counselor before we got married. And we went to a marriage counselor. We took a battery of tests. We talked and talked. And then he sat down and talked to us about where we're going to struggle based on who I was and based on who he was and based upon our compatibility with the state of marriage. He told us what to look out for. That's one thing. And having done that in the beginning made it easier when we came on rough times to go again. It didn't seem like a horrifying thing. It didn't seem like, oh, I'm saying the relationship's almost over. This is something we do just like going to get a physical yearly to make sure that our bodies are fine. We make sure our marriage is fine, not yearly, but when things get difficult, we go in and we know. And I know his name was, I'll never forget him, Dr. Willie, and he saved our marriage twice because we would go in. And, after a while, we learned to do it ourselves, but we made a habit of it. That's number one. Number two, you got to learn how to have a conversation. And everybody says communication is key. It is, but you got to learn. There are specific rules about having an effective conversation that you are least likely to obey when you are at home. Because that's where you feel you should be free, you should be able to say what you want to. But if you're going to have a discussion that provides you with clarity and closure and compromise, you have to really understand how to have an effective conversation. And most people don't. Most people come home and emote. And that's where you can't do it. I mean, you have the right to emote and all that kind of stuff, but when you're trying to solve, you got to know there are methods by which to solve that a whole bunch of emotionality will not assist.
Yeah, you have to be strategic in how you go about communicating to get the result that you want.
Yeah.
The best conversations have the most pauses in them because that's where all the thinking happens. And you're not stepping on each other to talk, to get your point across. You are taking in what they said, thinking about it, determining where you can meet them halfway, and then you come back with something.
That's so interesting. And I also find it interesting that you guys did marriage counseling pretty early on in your relationship. It's I remember that used to be, and I grew up in the church or whatever. So I remember that used to be kind of standard before you got married, is like you would go see like the church counselors or like, and I know with Catholics, they do that too. But it's interesting to see that you guys did that as well, but with like an actual licensed therapist.
Right.
A really good way to kind of really figure out where you guys would both stand on certain issues and how that would affect you down the line. That's really, really great advice. What I'm trying to say is that's really, really great advice. And I find that interesting that seems to be a cultural consent.
Yeah. If there's only one thing I could say to stay married, that would be the one thing to do early and continue to do. Makes it easy.
My parents are divorced, and that's what my dad said to me. He's like, well, if you ever get married, make sure to get marriage counseling before you get married and not after. Don't do what I did.
Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late, Dad.
Yeah, prevention is always better than cure, right? So,
Exactly.
I just wanted to branch off slightly. So here at FDS, we are really, really big on vetting, or as you call it, for example, watching your man. You just keep watching him. How do you think women can continue to watch or vet a man, especially as the relationship becomes more serious? Because it's easy to vet in the beginning when, there's fireworks and you're like, I'm going to go into this with queen energy. But from my experience and the experience of other women, it becomes more difficult the more you get invested into the man and into the relationship. So how can we maintain, the watching him attitude whilst also enjoying the relationship at the same time?
You have to maintain some distance. Stop doing that soulmate search. It's
yes.
filling in those boxes and we're always, I can work with this, I can work over this, and I don't like that, but he's doing this. So all that, be particular. Don't be afraid that he's going to go off. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid that he's going to leave. Yeah. It's just not, I remember when my husband and I were dating and he came to pick me up at my office. And he wasn't there. So I wasn't there. So he called me. I was at home and he says, why are you home? And I said, well, you said you were going to pick me up at 5. And by 5:20, you weren't there. So I just went home. And he says, well, I'll pick you up there. And I said, no, I'm not going to go anywhere with you now because it's 5:20. I'm home and taking my stockings off back in the day. And I ain't getting up. He was never late again.
Nice. Yeah, you got to be tough with men. You got to teach them your boundaries early.
But that taught me something, that I expressed a need, timeliness, because I'm a monster on time. I expressed a need, and that brother met it. That says a lot. So just don't get too attached too soon. And the more people that you date casually, the less likely that you are to do that. Not only because you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, it also allows you to compare and contrast. This one guy might be a great conversationalist, but another guy, you know what I mean? So you can decide what you need more of and what you want more of, because the perfect guy for me might be a guy to drive you crazy. So there are no set things to look for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm really glad you say that, because again, we are a huge fan. We did an episode on rotational dating a few weeks ago. We are a huge fan of that. Just keeping a rotation of men, at least in the early stages, just so.
And can I say this, as women, we kind of don't use our power well. If we were, I remember I said on the show once a long time ago, wouldn't it be wonderful if we just had a no nookie Tuesday? And women were just saying, we ain't giving it up on Tuesday. Every woman in the world don't give it up on a Tuesday. and first of all, you can see how okay it is to do without it, and just to how much they want to have sex with us is a powerful thing. And if we remove ourselves from the chase and sit and let them chase, and we all do that, then we'll all have to up their game. Do you understand what I'm saying? But
yes.
we have to not be in competition with each other so we can establish a floor for people to meet.
And the thing is, when women do the chasing or they don't put these boundaries, they end up compromising too much and being unhappy. And it becomes a race to the bottom with what women are willing to do to keep a man. But I would think the point of a relationship is to be happy most of the time, or feel like it's fulfilling you most of the time, rather than just having a man around. Right. It sort of defeats the purpose.
Yeah, I've had a number of women on the show. He cheats, he runs around, he doesn't work, he doesn't cook, he doesn't clean, and he won't marry me. And I said, why are you seeking to be attached long term to a guy that makes you miserable? And it's such an unexamined desire on our part to marry, just to be married. And I know I like being married. I love being married. It is a very good state of being for me. But I had to marry somebody that would make my life better, not simply tolerate somebody so I won't be alone.
Yeah, all these women that are like, yeah, my husband cheats on me and he does this and this and this horrible thing, but he's the best person ever and I love him so much and I want to marry him. I'm like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? And marrying them don't make it better. It makes it worse because they know you're stuck.
Exactly. Why do you want to marry someone like that?
I mean, I think there's also that element of, women have been, sold the idea that if you struggle for a man, eventually on some unspecified day in the future that it will pay off and he will treat you like a queen. Because I remember seeing the woman you've described on the show, and you could tell that the reason why they were hanging on for dear life onto this no good man was because they hoped that one day he would just transform into a prince. And obviously that day would never come. But no. I think there's also that aspect as well.
You would think people would reciprocate if you're uber good to them, that they would reciprocate that way. But often what happens is if you're uber good to somebody, I don't know what it is in human nature, and it's not just men, it's everybody. They they presume that they're entitled to it and want more and more and more, as opposed to being grateful for having it and giving in return.
Yes. So value yourselves, ladies. So another question we had, since you have 6 sons, we've been asking this question of a lot of our guests because we do not have children, and also we've never been boys. So what kinds of character traits do you try to instill in your sons, and what kinds of things do you think influenced your sons to be good partners, and what kinds of things should we even look for?
I think a lot of it was having a father in the home that was very dedicated to the proposition, treating his woman right. I mean, we didn't get along for a while there, those 3 years and everything. But at the end of the day, we never took it outside the house. We weren't on the internet. We didn't do a lot of things. And I think, and they saw, even when we didn't get along, he protected and defended me. And I think they see that as primary. And it was interesting. It's just a matter of culture. Like, I remember one time I took my son, he was like 8 or 9, to a specialist doctor for something. And the doctor was a dude. And my son looked at me and he said, he can't be a doctor. He's a guy. Because my sister's a doctor. My gynecologist is a doctor. His pediatrician was a doctor. And they were all women. So he thought only women were doctors. Do you know what I mean? Because it never occurred to me. But my gynecologist was a woman. My gynecologist was a woman. My sister's a doctor. His auntie was a doctor, and his doctor was a woman. So he thought that, and women take care of you. When I'm at home, when he's sick, I was the one taking care of him. So he thought that's what women did, and it wasn't a male job. But so it's about how they are raised. I think that. A lot of it they learn from watching their father. They really, really do. It's very important. They don't want to hear you talk to them at all. Every time I open my mouth, everybody running from the nearest available exit. They're just how they are, and they're your kids. They don't want to hear from you, but they watch everything that goes on. And I think it makes a difference when they have a good example. And when I think the women friends that I have are very professional, and we live in a very married community, and I don't know, they just learned from their father. And I remember the first time when my youngest turned 21, he went to a strip club, and I tend not to be, what do I call it? I tend not to be judgmental. I tend to let them do what they want to and see where they go with it. And I said, so what'd you think? He said, got to tell you, Mom was a little rapey. And I said, oh, okay. And then I left the room and yes, I did my job. See, he thought it was rapey,
So amazing, yeah.
You couldn't told me nothing that day because I had done it. And so I attribute all of that mostly to my husband. And I always thought I was a liberal mother, but I told that to my oldest once, and he said, who are you talking about? Everybody, even our friends, knew not to mess with you. So I was strong but fun. And my husband was dedicated to the proposition, and they watched the right show.
It's really interesting, actually, that you mentioned the strip club analogy with your son, because a few weeks ago we had Dr. Gail Dines on the show, and she also has a son as well. And he had a very, very similar experience with a strip club that she shared with us as well. So I don't know if asking a guy's opinion on strip clubs is a good vetting strategy. It seems like the good ones,
right?
Just seems like the good ones are rightfully repulsed by it. It seems
just a little uncomfortable with the entire scene. And I never really was like, this is this. But his father was very important. Have old school values about how you treat a woman. Like whenever he would leave town and I would be home alone, ever since my kids were 3 and 4, he would say, look after your mother while I'm gone. And when my son turned 16, he goes, look after your mother while I'm gone. And he turned around and said, Dad, what does that mean? I can't tell her what to do. I'm not in charge. So what does it mean? Look after her while I'm gone. He says, remember what I told you, and left. And when he left, I decided to paint the wall, and the wall was like 2 stories tall. So I get this paint, and my son comes out and says, what are you doing? And he says, I said, well, I'm going to paint it. And he said, no, you're not. I'll do it. And he got up on the ladder and he painted the thing. And then he got down and I said, and that is what your father was talking about.
Aww.
He wanted his wife returned to him in the same condition he left her. And it was my son's job to make sure I didn't fall, break nothing, get hurt, get scared. And that's what he taught him.
That's so beautiful.
I like my husband.
I like your husband too. I haven't even met him.
I like your husband.
We had a rocky morning, but I like him.
Is your son single by any chance? Would he like a British girlfriend?
Actually.
I mean, are you going to ship him to the UK or?
Hey, I want to.
I can travel. It's fine. I like travel.
I got one that's 29 and I got one that's 26. Neither one of them has a girlfriend. And,
you hear that, ladies? They're single.
I can't wait for them to find the right woman. I cannot wait. The baby's very monogamous. So, but he wants to find the right one. But once I remember he was dating this girl longest time. And then there was a gorgeous woman walking across. I mean, just gorgeous. And I was like, wow. And he said, yeah, it's a shame. All women are so pretty. And I said, well, why is it a shame? He said, I'm taken.
Yeah.
I'm taken. I don't look at other women because, I'm taken. That's what that is. If I got a girlfriend, I don't mess up.
See, that's one of the main differences between like a high value man and a low value man. The low value man would say it's natural for men to stare at other women.
It's biology for me to want to cheat on my girlfriend.
Right.
It's biology. Right. I'm just looking. I'm not doing anything. But he, was respectful. He acknowledged that she was beautiful, but that was it. He wasn't.
But that was it. It was just like,
that was it.
I'm taken. I got my lady. So, I don't know. I don't know how they got that. I just think they got that way watching their father. I don't really know. My the oldest, married 2 kids. Second one, not. Third one, with the same girl since he was 14 and she was 15. And they're in their mid-40s. And then the 2 babies, 26 and 29. Unmarried.
So another question I had to go along with that is, do you think there's a massive difference for women who are dating who are above 40? Because our audience is mostly young, but we do occasionally get questions from women who are a little bit older about how to apply the strategies when I think dynamics change. People have kids, right, or a lot more people are married if you're over 40.
Right.
What advice would you have for women over a certain age?
I'm not really sure. It'd be perfectly frank because I never dated out of my 20s and I don't really know.
Fair.
And I don't trust people who have an answer to everything. So I don't really, I don't really know. I just, everything's so different now than when us older women, well, I'm in my 60s, so it doesn't really, I'm really outdated, but,
yeah, I mean, there's the recurring joke or meme or idea or whatever that the older you get, the lower your standards have to be or something like that. Like when you're in your 20s, you can make all these demands of men. And then, there's a lot of memes, pictures going around oh, once you're 30, you're willing to settle for a guy who's got some convictions or who has this and all these flaws and stuff. And I don't think that's true. I think regardless of age, you should always have high standards.
My sister, I will tell you, she used to date, and then she got more and more picky. And she, as she got busier and her bank account went up, the less she was willing to put up with.
Yeah, you should get more picky as you get older, not less. Exactly.
Yep. She just wasn't willing to put up with anything.
It's Plus, I think, you know what you like, and and you have your life settled in a way that you like, you're more confident about leaving things behind that don't serve you.
Yeah, and we really need to have my parents never talked to my sister and I ever about what you look for in a guy or what you look for in marriage. All they talked about was which college we were going to, what kind of businesses we were going to run. He started investment accounts for us when we were teenagers, and it was about being fully actualized individuals. Because when you're a fully actualized individual, the love piece is only a piece of you, and it's not definitive. It makes men optional and not definitional. And I think you work from a place of power and strength when you do that. And you also date with the sense of I'm okay without desperation. And you have so many other things, so many other layers that are doing well or not doing well, that a man is just a piece of it,
Yes, absolutely. So I think we are just about wrapped up. I think I wanted to close out with asking you what your most memorable divorce court case was, just because we're messy and we're curious.
What was the craziest moment?
Well, if we're messy, now one of my favorites was the one about what 20 is for. It's for fine dudes that don't act right. That was clearly one of my favorites. And I had another favorite where a guy in there was bipolar, and I was telling him about being crazy and how to handle your crazy. And Tisdale versus Johnson, where there was a black woman who had that angry black woman syndrome, quote unquote, above her head. That's what her man was calling her. And we came to terms about her fears because she was afraid. And by the end of the show, she cried. And I loved that one. But it wasn't messy. Do you want messy?
Well, I think it's good to show women just, working through their issues. Like, we do talk about that on here too. Not just about men and like all their issues, but, helping you to bring yourself to a place of centeredness and happiness so that you can be, the right person for the right person.
Right. And it's not going to be perfect, but, you shouldn't tolerate, if they're spewing nothing but dark in your direction, you do not need that.
I mean, I can remember watching a divorce court compilation of like the worst excuses like given, like when men cheat. That was one. He was like, "It was an accident. I cheated." And your face was like, "No, I slipped into her vagina."
Yeah, I was in bed with her, but nothing was going on. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how she got there.
I have one last question, actually, Judge Lynn. What are some ways that, because I don't know if you're familiar with the Betty Broderick case, but I'm really into like true crime recently. And I don't know if you watched the show on Netflix, but the whole time watching it, it's so painful because I'm like, sis, this is not how you divorce a man and come out on top. Like, what are some common mistakes?
Have you seen the interviews? I'm immersed in Betty Broderick.
Yes.
I just, have you seen her interviews with Oprah in prison?
No, I haven't yet, but I'm going to go
on YouTube
and
look that up. That woman is so sick that even in jail, she thinks she did the right thing. She cannot admit to anything going wrong. She doesn't talk to her children because she's still fanatical about Dan.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I think the most upsetting thing about that case is like she essentially left her kids orphans because then she's in jail. The breadwinner Dan is dead. But the whole time I'm looking at that case through the analysis of like, okay, once you realize that something's up, your husband's cheating on you, that's when you need to find a lawyer. That's when you need to get 2 steps ahead. Because the interesting thing to me is how he finessed the divorce such that she would get like nothing financially and essentially maximized his own benefit. And she went about it like in all the wrong ways, like not getting a lawyer for herself, dragging her feet, leaving the voicemail, like the crazy voicemails and, vandalism of his property and stuff. And I'm like, sis, all of these things are things he's going to be using against you. Like, this is not strategic, right? So what are some of the more, I mean, Betty Broderick is an extreme case, but what are some of the more common mistakes that a lot of women make when divorcing that where they end up screwing themselves over, and how can women make better choices there?
I think it's important to understand why she did that. She did that because she was raised in a culture where she was defined by who she was married to. She was Mrs. Broderick, and her whole life was defined that. So she had no desire to get money or to get ahead of things. Her whole being.
She didn't want to get divorced. Yeah.
No, she did not want to get a divorce. She wanted to fix it. And other men in that culture, they have affairs and you get past it and you stay and you get past it. She thought that's what's going to happen. And since that defined who she was as a person, she could not let it go.
Yeah. So
that's what
lesson
happened.
Learned there is like, don't define yourself based on you have to be willing to walk away, because if you're in that situation where, and that's the thing that's so fascinating about it, is because, you know, he's cheating on you, he's doing all these things. Why do you want to still be with that guy? Right. And yes, she was raised that way, but, you know, if you're sensing that something's wrong, that's when you gotta be willing to walk away as a woman. Like if your husband is being, you know, a cheater, or is like treating you badly, or, you know, controlling you or whatever, you know, you gotta get ahead.
Yeah. You gotta go in strong. You gotta go in strong. Yeah.
You can't be like, pick me. No, you know,
pick me. Oh my God, I made it. You know, no, it's not like that.
Betty Broderick is an extreme case though, but what are some like common mistakes that women make? I mean, not lawyering up is probably one of them, but what are some mistakes that women make when divorcing? How can we remedy that?
Well, they make a mistake during marriage if they are not well acquainted with the financial circumstances of the home. Sometimes, especially if the male is the primary breadwinner, they allow that financial piece to be completely on his table, and so you don't know what to look for. You have to go find a forensic accountant or something to find that money, because you don't know what's going on. Another thing is, don't fight over the sentimental stuff. You know, this was a business. You know. Divorcing is the end of a relationship, but getting a divorce is a business transaction. And if you get how you feel confused with the money that you need, you're going to fight over all the wrong things.
Yeah. Yeah, like she was fighting over the china and like, you know.
Yeah. Sentimental because it meant something. And how could he? This is when and blah, blah, blah. That's not it. It's business. And you got to remember it's business.
You got to be ruthless. Can't get caught up in your feelings, for sure.
Feelings are, call the attorney. He did $500 an hour for him to hear your angst. Don't do it. You know, that's for girlfriends.
And you can't take any of that stuff with you. I mean, you could get all that china and then just drop it on your way into your house. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things people get attached to things.
It's really, it's not that important, but you get confused when you're in it, because you just cannot believe he would do it or she would do it, you know? So you get emotional about it, and then you start doing dumb things.
Is there any, just, you know, general final words of wisdom that you'd like to give to our listeners? Judge Lynn.
If you're a young lady, just be a fully actualized individual. You know, don't make sure that your intellectual life is very busy and puts you in a whole lot of different pools of people, so you can be in different circumstances and cultures and everything. You meet a whole bunch of different kinds of guys, and don't just, you know, and the whole thing is to live as much of life as you can. And so don't laser focus on any one particular aspect of your life to the detriment of all others. You are a fully actualized individual with a whole lot of depth and interests. And if you're not, it's your job to become that.
Words of wisdom. Thank you.
Judge Lynn Toler, everybody.
Thank you. I had a ball, ladies. You have a wonderful evening.
Nice. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
And that's our show. Please check out our website at thefemaledatingstrategy.com, as well as our Patreon, patreon.com/thefemaledatingstrategy, where you can hear weekly bonus content, as well as roast to scrotes. Also, please follow us on Twitter at fem.strat. Thanks for listening, Queens. And for all you scrotes out there, this episode is adjourned.